Oh, I tell you what, dude, you would have been fuming if you'd seen the car I seen the other day.
What was that?
306 1.9D turbo.
Yeah, I say that was yeah, it's dark times that was. That was yeah, and that's a good thing actually, because I'd say that's because I say that was definitely my worst car.
Oh,
that
by a
car.
long shot.
I say yeah, I've not thought about the car for a long time, but again, I'm not saying that these, like I say, a lot of people I know have had these cars and they've had an awesome time with it, but the one I had, no, that thing was an absolute nightmare. That was I think to this day still the most expensive car I bought at the time.
Yeah,
and it was about 8 years old at the time, 7 or 8 years old. It wasn't even 10. And so it was one of the newest cars I bought at the time, like I've ever owned as well, really, considering. So I mean, technically the newest car I've ever owned is an 04 plate, but now that is, what's that, 8 years old?
Oh Christ,
oh no, 18 years old.
Yeah,
sorry. 18 years old, sorry. My maths is terrible. But it's yeah, no, that car was something else. The first day I got it, the driver's side window stopped working. Then about
always
a week,
a good start.
Yeah. I literally went over to show my old man, because he had a 306 at the time as well. He had the non-turbo diesel and I had the turbo diesel sport, and mine was blaze yellow as well, and that's still one of my favorite car colors to this day. And I still say to this day that's still one of the nicest car colors. And the 06 models of Peugeot, they were really nice looking as well. Yeah. They were. I have to admit, to this day, I still say it was one of the nicest looking Peugeots that they ever made. But it's and I brought it because, one, it was diesel. I thought, because I was seeing the missus, which she lived 180 miles away at the time, and I was coming up every weekend, so I thought it'd be cheaper. But yeah, but it was just the worst financial mistake I ever made, really. Because, like I say, the first day the window stopped working. Then about a week later, the heater controls jammed on hot in the middle of summer. Yeah. So I couldn't open the driver's door, and I could only have hot air coming out the heaters, and I couldn't turn the heaters off either. So it was hot air trickling out of there, and the windows stuck up. So I drove everywhere with all 3 other windows open. Then, if you beep the horn, the fog lights came on. Yeah. I turned the stereo up too loud once when I was up visiting Zara, and I didn't realise that French cars, if you ever get this, French cars, or these French cars, came with a 5-amp fuse in the back of the stereo. Right. Most aftermarket stereos are 10 amps, so I turned the stereo up a bit too loud one day, and it blew that fuse, which blew everything. I lost my clocks and everything, and if you turn the car off, then it won't restart. I found that out the hard way. So yeah, that I broke down because of that. Oh, what else? I had the normal earthing problem with the backlights on it.
Your bonnet flipped up.
That was the final straw for me, was the bonnet letting go 60 mile an hour. The bonnet catch let go and came back through the windscreen whilst I was going around a corner. That was the final straw for that car. I drove a drill straight down through the slam panel of the bonnet, put rally pins in it and sold it. That was, the wheel nuts came loose as well when I was driving it at one stage, with RSGT alloys on it. It was like chitty chitty bang bang. That car just had so many faults, one thing after another, after another, after another. And I had it for 6 months, and I sold it for roughly about, what was it, about 1,800 quid less than what I paid for it.
Oh bloody hell!
And so yeah, I made a massive loss on it, and I paid it off for 5 years as well, because I took out a loan. That's the only car I ever took out a massive loan for, and I was paying that loan off for 5 years, and I only owned the car for 6 months. Yeah.
Oh, that's nuts, isn't that?
Yeah. Thank God I kept my Cavalier in the wings.
Yeah.
But, I see. What was your best? What was your worst car? Sorry, you would say.
My worst car, I had a 2.2 SRI Vectra, and it was a good car, but it was the most unreliable car I've had, and by far it's the thirstiest car I've ever had. I went from
even compared to your other one.
Yeah, the V6 was actually way better on fuel than the 2.2 was. I know it sounds daft, but it's true.
Yeah, I heard rumours about that actually, and I remember you saying to me about that before. Now we're talking about it.
Well, it was. I think it holds my record for breaking down, and not just like breaking down, round town or near your house or whatever like that. Always on long journey. I think it broke down 5 times.
Really?
Yeah. I think that thing saw the back of a recovery truck more than it saw the road most of the time.
Wow.
And yeah, the fuel was horrific. I drove from Barnstaple to Bristol, 90 miles. Wasn't hooning it or anything like that. 3/4 of a tank.
That's crazy, because I mean my truck will go from here down home and back, and it'll do it on a full tank, but that's 160, 170 miles each way, and I was saying it'll do it on a full tank, and that's a thirsty petrol truck.
Well, fortunately, somebody in the minibus ended up writing it off for me, so I didn't have to suffer too much longer with it. But yeah, I mean, I should have thought about it really when I went for the V6, because you'd think naturally, oh, it's going to be worse on fuel. No, fantastic on fuel comparatively.
To be honest, back then as well, it was before we had sort of, well, I'm trying to think of what the wording is for it now. I would say before we had responsibilities then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
back when you could buy a daft car and it was all right because you still lived at home, or you were, you weren't in a position where you needed money all the time to
if you
live.
Yeah, that's it. If, you weren't going to starve and everything like that, and you weren't going to you didn't have a mortgage to pay.
but to be fair, I went from having 2 Vectra Bs to a Vectra C, which, to be fair, is by far the best car I've ever had. It's not the best looking car, it's not the fastest car, but it's comfortable, it's got plenty of room in it, it's got a decent sized boot, and I can drive that thing places on like a teaspoon of fuel. It is fantastic. Yeah. And it goes in the garage once a year for its MOT. It at most costs me about 200-300 quid for that, which most people think, oh, that's expensive. Won't cost me anything for the rest of the year.
Well, to be honest, it's actually quite mad thinking, because I mean, we've done multiple videos on all of my cars. Like I've got a couple on the truck. I mean, they weren't too bad, mostly maintenance. I got a few on my a few more coming on my E46. Got loads on the E36 and things like that. But the other day we actually filmed our first video on your car, didn't we? And that wasn't actually a breakdown or a fault or anything like that. Or it wasn't even maintenance. It was just fitting roof racks and the bike carrier, so it was actually fitting accessories to it. And that was the first video we've done featuring the Vectra C, which was really cool.
Well, we were trying to think of what else to film with it, and the only thing we could think of was trying to put a cage on the stereo.
Yeah,
that's not even something that's an issue. It's just a case of, well, I wouldn't mind having it sitting a little bit tidier.
Yeah, and to be honest, the only other things we thought about is the videos that we were going to stage to show you, like how-to videos, like what to do when you have a blowout, what to do.
Yeah, so we were going to fake problems with the car that doesn't have any.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, I don't want to try it with mine because chances are those fake problems might turn to real ones. Yeah. But it's yeah, no, because to be honest, I have to admit, I did die a little bit inside when you were getting rid of your GSI to buy the diesel one, the Vectra C. But to be fair, that car has really grown up. I actually do love that car a bit. That's really grown on me. It's been such a reliable car, and and to be fair, I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I always love the look of the Vectra C. And when, like, with the VXR one, when they brought that out, I thought that was a masterpiece. But it's just, yeah, but like I said, and I still love the Vectra C now, and I think they've aged really well, because some cars are the same age you look at now and you think, God, that looks old. Yeah. But yours is just not at all. I mean, and the facelift one, like it
had to be the facelift one.
Yeah, the pre-facelift, I think that aged very badly, and then the facelift model they gave it, really did do it some justice, and it's, a fantastic car. And
what's your best car?
That's a really hard question, because to be honest, I think we're sat in my best car. From my way I put it, this is the car I get the most excited about, my E46 330i. I love this thing to bits. I think I get very emotionally attached to my cars. Yeah. I've had this one for 5 years now, which is one of the longest cars I've owned, and it's been to hell and back with me. It's been there through cool things like with my kids and like fun times and holidays, things like that. It took me to my wedding.
Took me to my wedding.
Took you to your wedding. But it was also there for me for the dark times as well. It was there when my old man died. It was there through a load of crap, and it's always brought me out the other side and everything like that. So this car for me has got a real soft spot in my heart, and I just love the way it looks. I love the note from that straight six.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I love. And to be fair, Beamers, I've always found they are drivers' cars. They drive beautifully and everything like that. And even though it's a 21, 22-year-old car, everything except the parking sensors works in it. And the parking sensors, they kind of worked before, but I put aftermarket cheap ones in and it stopped them working completely. So that's my fault. So again, a new few sensors and everything in the car electrically will work.
Wait for the upcoming video, guys.
Yeah. But this one is my baby. I love this car to bits. And like I say, it's not everyone's cup of tea. Some people might think I'm sad for saying that this is because it's old, because it's the gas guzzler. I don't care. It's mine. Yeah. And, but yeah, but it's a tie-up, because a car that's very similar in that aspect to me is which is one you probably remember fondly as well, as my grey SRI 130, the first ever Cavalier I had, because a lot of people knew me as the Cav man, or Cavvy bloke, or Cavalier King or whatever. People had a few different nicknames for me, like Martin and that and everything. But yeah, it was.
I've had 8 of them.
9. Number 9 is parked in my driveway. I was an avid Cavalier Mark III fan, but the first one I ever had was a Mark III in a H-Reg with the 130 2-litre petrol engine, which I've still got on my driveway actually, out of the car. And it's but yeah, no, that car again, I love that thing. That was I went from a Metro as my first car to that, and that was just, I loved it to bits. Again, it had the twin upswept DTM exhaust, custom paint job, 17-inch rims, lowered 40mm, pipe across induction kit. I did have an FSE power boost valve and a super chip TCU at one stage, but my mother accidentally chucked them out, which, as they do.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, that car, I loved that one to bits. Again, I had it for about 4 or 5 years, and she met an untimely end when my wife borrowed it to go shopping and wrapped it around a post. That's still a sore spot now. She doesn't like it when I talk about it, so she probably hate this video if she watches it. But yeah, there's a toss up between this one I've got now and that one there. And I mean, I've had somewhere in the region of about 35 cars.
Yeah.
And it shows you the biggest time scale, because I mean, I had that one when I was 18 and I bought this one when I was about 28, so about 10 years between them. And they're my two that I would say are my best cars. And it's yeah, so it's, yeah, like I say, that's definitely the best and worst of my ones. So it's but yeah, I would say, what are your guys' best and worst cars you've ever owned?
Yeah, let us know in the comments.
Yeah, and also one thing I did want to say, just before we get any hate for this video, because I know there's going to be a lot of people that love Peugeots out there, a lot of people that love Vectra Bs out there, and things like that, but this is our opinion, this is our personal experience, because I mean, I had a mate who had a Peugeot 306D Turbo Sport at the same time as I had mine, a 3-door one, and even though mine was full service history, 79,000 on the clock and everything like that, his had 168,000 on the clock, no history, no nothing, and his car was an absolute bomb-proof legend. It just kept going and going and going. So I know there are people out there that have had these cars we spoke about as our worst.
And to be fair, after my SMI, I did get a GSI Vectra B, and that thing was a completely different animal to the one I had before.
To be honest, I'm surprised you didn't say that was your best car.
To be fair, she had her issues, and she was in the garage quite a lot.
Was she your most fun car?
Oh, by a million miles. But
yeah,
she had to go, unfortunately, to buy a house, and
oh yeah, that's the thing, life sometimes gets in the way a bit. And
but yeah, what we're trying to say is yeah, we may have had bad experiences with cars, but we're not slagging them off. It's just we had shitters.
Yeah, and yeah, and the other thing I was going to say as well is the same with the best cars. Like I say, I know there's probably a billion people out there that have had E46s that absolutely hate their guts because they've had a terrible experience with them. Like we all do. We all have different experiences with different cars. So yeah, don't take everything we're saying as gospel. Take it with a bit of a pinch of salt, and let us know what your experiences with different cars are. Let us know how you've got on with different things, what your best, your worst, and just and it'd be good to hear from you. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, but we don't really look at it much. And yeah, keep an eye out. Let us know what you think.
Cheers.
Cheers.